Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Virtue Signal. I'm Bill Whittle with my friend Alfonso Rachel, and this is the show where we talk about things kind of behind the politics. Many of you don't know this, but Zoe doesn't have any idea what I'm going to ask him about. He just sits in the chair, happy, and hasn't got the faintest idea what's coming. I usually don't know what's coming until I pretty much walk in the room. Zoe, I learned something about this particular strange line of work that we're in a while ago. And what I learned was that this is not about so much insight or opinions or information or anything. Fundamentally, the product, at least here, is just honesty. It's transparency. It's talking about things that people might be feeling, no matter how difficult they might be, and that willingness, that kind of courage just to go at these things has really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. So I'm sorry to ambush you with all of this, but I got to tell you, man, I am really feeling trapped and poisoned. Those are the two words that come to mind for me. I look at what's happening out there in the world, and I feel like it's poisoning my spirit. I don't know. I have a very hard time feeling happy about anything. It's not just me being in a down mood. This is a long-term, ongoing thing where I feel like I'm trying to filter all this stuff, try and find some sort of positive take on it, and I find that I don't have much confidence in the future, a lot, and mostly I just feel like I'm just kind of trapped. Like, the faster I run, the further behind I get. This entire company, we don't sell shoes here, we sell me talking with you or Steve or Scott. I get emails from people who, whose memberships have decided to cancel because I'm not doing the shows that I used to do, or Stratosphere Lounge didn't come out this week, or whatever. And I feel like I cannot get out of this circle. My blood pressure, which has always been low, is now getting higher and higher on a daily basis. And I feel like somebody else who I respected. I don't have a lot of friends. It's strange enough. I know this sounds just like a giant weepy session, but like I said, we try and tell the truth here. People who I used to work with, people you and I both used to work with, I'm dead to them. And so are you. I don't know if that's ever crossed your mind, but people who we used to be closely associated with at PJTV, gone on, got their own shows, are doing real well, never hear from them. And mostly I just feel like, and this is the hardest part to explain, I feel like somebody else who was in this line of work, who I considered to be a friend, said that, he felt like it was up to him to save this whole thing somehow. That if he worked harder or did better, then maybe we could turn this whole thing around. And I watched that just consume him, and finally it killed him. And I kind of feel like I'm in those footsteps right now. And here's the worst of it, or the best of it. I kind of feel like it's I almost feel like that's it. That's it. That's what men are supposed to do. They're supposed to work until they drop. And that's an honorable way to go. That's what this is. I feel like a soldier who's in a trench in World War I, and he's looking at his watch, and it's 3 minutes till the whistle blows, and then I'm going to go over the top and into those machine guns, and that's my duty. That's what I'm here for. And last time I talked to you, you made me feel a lot better. I'm not asking you to make me feel better here, but I I just feel like there's that, and I'm there's a lot of things I could have talked about today beside this, and we could have done a show about music or anything, but I realize now the only thing I really do that's of real value is make people feel like they're not alone in all of this stuff. So I know I'm not the only person out there who feels this way. And it's not just about the politics, it's just about the job. I know there's people out there watching this who feel like, I don't know how much longer I can go on like this, but I can't stop. I can't stop. People are depending on me. And that's where I am right now. And that's where I've been for a long time. And I don't know what to do about it.
Man, I hear you. Optimism is that's a tough gig to maintain, man. And it's not convincing ourselves. It's the truth. We do win in this. It's like, yeah, man, and like you often says, we win, right? It's like, I could see how we're going to win this. And me, like, looking in the back of the book and spoiler alert, we win. Despite that,
I just don't think I'm going to be there to see it.
Yeah, there's that. There's a saying, man. It says, the Lord says, revenge is mine, but if you're lucky, he'll let you see it. But I understand, man, the feeling of being trapped. You feel trapped in this. And one person who can definitely relate to this is, when we sometimes think that we're being like, having a pity party or a crying session or anything like that. David was one of the hardcore warriors ever, right? And David's got books, of Psalms lamenting, it's like, man, what is up with this? But the thing that kept him maintaining, the thing that keeps you at this temperature is that God, who is an emotional God, is consistent with his emotions. He's justified in his wrath and he's justified in his mercy. And there's lots of stuff in the Bible that gets on his last flipping nerves, but if we understand that he is the sufficiency. His name is El Shaddai. It means the sufficient one. So when we recognize that, it's one of those things where ain't much that we're dealing with that he hasn't dealt with. And I personally cannot deal with these things on my own, but I rely on the one who can, and I draw on his strength to be able to do it. If I'm able to sit here and have a smile on my face, it ain't because I'm ignorant of anything that is like you feel abandoned. We know that the Lord on the cross felt that. That was among his last words. This is, why have you forsaken me? He was speaking at the time exactly how he felt. And not only that, speaking of the things that the prophets before him had felt. He knows all these things. He knows what it feels like to be the scapegoat, the one who feels like who's made to carry these things and take it off into the wilderness and be abandoned with it. He knows what that feels like. He knows what it feels like to be thrown to a ditch by your peers, his own nation, his own countrymen, the people that he came to redeem. Murdered.
I think that's what hurts the most, honestly.
Yes,
I really do. I think that's what stings the most.
Yeah,
is watching people who we work with, who we were. When I say we, I mean you and me. I don't mean the conservative movement. I mean you and me, Alfonso and Bill, together. We worked with a bunch of people, and I felt like we were comrades, and I mean that in the same. I mean like soldiers. Because when you put yourself and your face and your name out in front of this thing, you get shot at, and you get shot at from the front all the time. And those I can take. But when you get shot at from the back, those are painful wounds. And I'm not saying that those people shot at me, but I'm also saying I've seen the support systems that they have, and I don't.
I hear you, man. And it's like, when you get shot in the back, that exit wound still ends up being through the heart, so it'll tear your heart apart, and, people will ask, and people, they give you different theories, and it's like, they'll tell you these things. It's like trying to cure the hiccups, like why you're going through this. Like, look, man, you can say, as if you haven't tried to do these things to cure the hiccups, and trying to tell you things that you don't know, and they haven't even walked a step in your shoes as far as this goes. You haven't done this or you haven't done this. Like, actually, yeah. Or when people say things like, well, why aren't you on Rumble? Well, actually, I've been on Rumble for years. And if you're asking me why I'm not on Rumble, it means that you haven't even looked for me there. right? It's that kind of thing where people seem to know all about what it is that you're going through, and they really don't, and they don't understand how you may have been targeted. And people who will just leave, they just abandon you. And, or things like, for somehow you don't fit their brand. Like, oh, well, Zoe, we don't listen to your stuff anymore. Just like when they say, hey, Zoe, Bill, you don't do the stratosphere. It's like you're trying to please everybody. You can't please everybody. And or they'll say, Zoe, well, I don't listen because, you talk about God too much and I don't want to hear God. I just want the red meat politics and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, man, what do you think I base my conservatism on? I base my conservatism on something eternal, not something on based on a flawed human being, but the real nitty gritty, the real foundation, real root of it. I understand that some people can't jive with that. But if we're trying to get down to this real root of virtue, well, I have to base it in something that's been here long before me, long before the people who espouse it, and long before the people tend to be fans of in their classical writings. Well, there was something that was here before that already set the standards for that. So why don't I just go to that? But for some people, that's still not sufficient, despite the Lord saying, I am the sufficient one. And those things, you can't help but be hurt by that, because it's like you're trying to tell somebody the truth and they're just rejecting. It's like trying to, if you see somebody choking and you're like, look, man, you need some help. And they're like, no. And you can't, and that's like a real thing. Like, say, for instance, if you work in if I understand correctly, if you work in the medical industry, you can be liable if you offer somebody the Heimlich maneuver and they can come back and sue you.
What kind of world is this?
Right.
There's a true story about some guy. I think it was a pilot who actually, I think it was a pilot, but somebody was trapped in a burning vehicle and somebody went and cut them out of there, pulled them out. And by pulling this guy out of this burning vehicle, which he would have died in, he somehow injured his hip. So they sued the guy.
Yeah.
He sued the guy who saved his life. What kind of planet is this?
Right.
And we see this more and more and more. And so people will look at this and they'll say, look, well, let me just finish this thought. They'll look at this and they'll say, well, geez, well, just take some time off. I haven't been away from the job since December of 2019, so 2 years. Just take a couple weeks off. It's like, that's not going to do it. It's not a question of how much time I spend here. It's not that. I can't take time away from the world. Maybe I can, but I don't know. When you say exactly the kind of thing you're talking about, where somebody's doing the Heimlich maneuver and they get sued because they didn't do it right, and all of this insanity and all of this and venality. We did a segment on Right Angle where Obama was sitting there with Bruce Springsteen, and they were talking about. They were being interviewed because they're both such renegades, and they showed a clip of Bruce Springsteen from the 70s playing with Clarence Clemons, and they said, "Wow, you had such great chemistry." And Bruce said, "Yeah, it was amazing, and it was like a reconciliation and a like a rejuvenation." And Obama said to him, "Yeah, Bruce, but you guys were great up on stage and stuff, but let's face it, most of your audience was white, so they may look at you up there with Clarence Clements having a good time, but when it came time to go back to the bar, then the N-word comes out." He's basically saying that Bruce Springsteen's fans could groove on Bruce playing with Clarence, but if Clarence Clements were to walk into a bar, then they would look and say, "Oh, what's that N-word doing here?" And this is Barack Obama talk. But fortunately, Barack Obama is here because his politics finally were able to examine this in a real light, and not this false kind of sense of camaraderie that Bruce and Clarence Clements had, but the real thing. Now that he's here, he can raise these things up and examine them. Thank God for him. And that comment stayed with me for the last 3 days, and I cannot let go of how evil that is, and how. And it's killing me, man.
I hear you.
It's killing me.
Yeah. The inconsistency and the hypocrisy. You got Obama who's
the evil of it. The evil of it. It's like saying no. You and Clarence up there and everybody saw. Look at these. These are not white guy and a black guy. These two musicians are really grooving on each other. No. That's not it at all. The people who saw that, watched him do that, are the same kind of white people that would go into a bar, and if it hadn't been Clarence Clements on stage, would have just been another N-word that walked in there. Just the sheer evilness of it, and now look at me. Now my blood pressure again going through the frickin' ceiling, and I don't know how to get away from this thing. And I feel like I'm not supposed to get away from it. And that if it's gonna take us out, then that's our job. We're soldiers. That's what soldiers do. And I don't know how to get away from that. I don't know how to walk away from. I can't unhear that. You know.
Yeah, and the sad part of it is that while Obama makes it look like it's going to be a bar room full of white people, I can guarantee you, if Clarence Thomas is going to walk into a bar that is
I did that too.
Yeah, and Clarence Thomas too. It's going to be the same thing.
Of course, same thing. That's why. Yeah, I made the same mistake a couple days ago.
It's going to be the same thing. If they walk into a bar that's going to be predominantly black people, sad to say, that N-word is going to get thrown around way more than if they did into a white bar. Way more. The proof is, it's like you walk into a bar, hey, what's that N-word doing here? Right? Now, they'll go ahead and try to tell you that it's a term of endearment or something like that. Oh, that's just what we call it. That's how we roll. But, however, when you get angry at that same black person, you're going to say that N-word with just as much hate and vitriol. Even if it's the last word that person hears as you beat them or shoot them down, beat them to death or shoot them down. That's going to be the last word that they hear. So it doesn't matter if it ends with ER. It doesn't matter if it ends with AH. It doesn't matter how you spell it. It's going to be the same thing. So these people, you got Obama sitting there lying to people. And I know, man, it poisons your blood. It makes your blood, it almost feels like, can I just have something else rather than my blood in me, because my blood is making me feel sick?
I feel like Keith Richards, it's like I've got so much this toxin,
so
much poison in my blood now. I need 100% blood transfusion, and I need to go to a big house with a rubber room and sit there for 6 months until I can gain enough strength back to come back and face this stuff.
Yes,
but it's just poisonous, and I don't know how to unhear it, and I don't know what to do about it except talk about it honestly, and so when I think about what I'm doing here right this second, like in real time, when I think about what I'm doing, I just think, oh, for God's sakes, Bill, pull yourself together, and I think that's what people are saying, to just take a day off, man, pull yourself together. But I'll tell you what I really feel like, man. Did you see Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like Tom Hanks, one of my best guys just got killed. And now I say, okay, let's get a squad together and bury him. And then I have to walk off behind this rock and watch my hand shake. And then I have to have this breakdown in private, so that nobody else sees it, because I don't want anybody else to see it. And that's when I thought, today, when I was thinking about whether I wanted to talk about this or not, I think, okay, but all of us are Tom Hanks on some level, right? In fact, the fact that I saw that in the movie gave me strength. You know what I mean? Just the fact that I was able to see a movie where this guy who's a captain doesn't want to show in front of his men how much this has taken a toll on him. Just the fact that Spielberg let me see the toll that it was taking on him without him having to show his men the toll that it was taking on him. That's what made me want to talk about this, because I suspect all of us are Tom Hanks in that situation. I think all of us are sitting at some level or another relative to somebody or another. We're sitting there behind that rock, trying not to let other people see how much this is taken out of us. And I think that's incredibly noble. And I think it's unbelievably admirable. And I didn't want to do this, and I don't want to do it now. But I realized that part of what we do is in fact, a lot of what we do is give people the sense that they're not alone in this, that they're not insane, that they're not weak, that they're not crazy, that they're not, this whole thing, just the Obama example, this whole thing is designed to divide us up and make us feel like we're all alone in this. And it takes a certain amount of courage to show people that no, I'm not. No, this is not something that is that I just shake off. I can't shake this off. this is the weapon. This is just what it's designed to do. It's designed to make us crazy, and it's working.
It's rather infectious, ain't it? And the thing is, a lot of us don't know what it's like, to wear the uniform and serve in that capacity, be soldiers, out on the front lines getting shot at, and instruments used designed to, to take you apart. A lot even soldiers don't know what that's like. So, we don't want to look like or sound like, hey, we're going through this, something that's going to cause PTSD or anything like that. But to maintain this kind of thing, to do your part on stateside, trying to keep the morale, trying to do the job of promoting the truth, that does take a toll. It is taxing in its own way. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to be, and like I said, that's a whole different category. But for me, in the service of the Lord speaks to us as if we are military. Even when Israel was being led out of Egypt, they were led out as slaves, but God called them his army. I'm leading out my army. And when you're in a service, he talks to you like you're his army. Put on your helmet of truth. You got your helmet, you got your breastplate, you got your sword, you got your belt, these helmet and breastplates of truth and salvation, these things that you put on. So we're supposed to be armed up. And it's not just about going out there to arm people to just, hey, we're the Salvation Army and we're here to to spread love and all that sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, sometimes love has to be dispatched, with a little bit of elbow grease, not for the sake of attacking, but to defend what people are bringing here. This thing that is making us feel imprisoned. It's like a prison planet. And for all intents and purposes, it is. As I've said before, this is earth. This is not heaven. There's a reason why the Lord said this is Adam's first job. It's like, yeah, you're going to tend the garden and you're going to ranch these animals and stuff like that. But make no mistake, your job is to take dominion. I expect you to subdue the earth because there was a lot of evil here. This is my garden where everything is nice. Outside of that, there is evil. Your job is to get out there and whoop its behind and bring it to jurisdiction. That's your job. So that's ours too, Bill. We still have that mandate. That's our job. It's a war, and in this war, you're going to have those moments. David had those moments. Moses had those moments. All these figures, the ones who were judges, Samson had these moments and he was a real knucklehead. But all these cats who paint the picture of Christ had his moment. When he was like, man, don't you know who I am? It's like, do I got to do this again? Lazarus, bring your behind on out here. And he was crying. It's like, dude, you don't get after all I've done, you don't get who I am. So it's like these people have made the model of understanding what it is that we're going to go through in this war of salvation. Because that's what we're talking about, ain't it, Bill? That's the thing that gets us frustrated. Man, how are we going to save this? And as I've said before, we don't. It can't be saved. Why? Because it's already been saved. The Lord already saved it. Our job is to report the salvation has come. It's already been here. The problem is people reject the salvation. What do you do with that? And the Lord understands, like, yeah, man, I get it. That's how it's going to be. They hated me first. They're going to hate you too. They're going to give you a whole bunch of problems. Why? Because you got the truth? Yeah, they killed me for that. Welcome to the war.
One of the first essays anybody ever sent me when I started writing Eject, was called, I forgot what it was called. But it was about one of the prophets. It might have been Job. I'm not 100% sure. But the story basically is God calls this prophet to go to this place and preach the truth. And he says, yes, Lord, absolutely. And then God says to him, is it Elijah? I don't remember who it was. You'll know. And then God says, but no one's going to listen to you.
Jonah.
I don't think it was Jonah. In any event, he says, no one's going to listen to you. And the guy says, the prophet says, well, then why am I going? Essentially. And God says, because there is a remnant. That's the word, the remnant. That there is a small group of people who will hear you and they won't even know that they've heard you. But 10 years from then or 20 years from then, they'll have a thought that they thought was original, but you planted it there, that there's this small remnant, this core, this group of people who have this belief, and that's who you're going to be talking to. And they may not even know you're talking to them. They don't even know that they are the remnant. But that's what you have to do. I think, and I remember being so struck by that, and the other thought that I had was that, I read the Civil War trilogy by Shelby Foote. I've read it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now. Each one of those is like 900 pages 3 times. And Shelby Foote was talking about Confederate soldiers going into battle because Robert E. Lee was there. And he said, what kind of courage did it take for men to go into that kind of fire, just walk across a field, watch people just getting cut down like wheat, just blown to pieces from artillery shells. Just what did it take for somebody to basically walk across that field? And he said, and this is Shelby Foote speaking, he said, when you've got that guy on that horse sitting next to you, there's not a person alive who has the courage to say, no, sir, I'm not going. You know what I mean? That the courage to say, no, I'm not going. No one had that kind of moral courage. That the moral courage to basically, that it took a much braver man not to go than to go. I know that sounds paradoxical, but some of you will understand that. When they were getting the Doolittle Raiders ready, and they were going to launch 4 or 5 hours before they were supposed to, and it went from being a very dangerous mission to a suicide mission. They asked some of these guys afterwards, how did you find the courage to go? And all of them said, we were scared out of our minds. None of us had the courage to not go. None of us had the courage to tell our friends, no, you guys go ahead, I'm just going to sit this one. None of us were that brave. And I bring that up only for this reason, it's like, I almost said I despise weakness. So why don't I just go with that? Because that was my first thought. And now here I am crying all these buckets about how sad things are and how tough my life is. And I thought, I despise the fact that I'm doing this. I hate it. It makes me ashamed of myself talking about these things. And that's when I realized, but you have to have the moral courage, Bill, to talk about weakness and to talk about failure and to talk about despair, because that's the one thing that people need more than leadership, is they need to know that what they're feeling is not unique to them. And that's why I decided to go down this road today. It makes me ill. I mean, I really feel it. I feel it. It makes me ill to sit here and talk about how much of a toll this is taking on me. It feels weak and whiny and selfish and all of those things. But then I just had this insight, this flash, like somebody's got to have the courage to say that I'm just out of courage right now. And I don't know what to do about it. And I don't know how to get out of this. And I don't know I don't know what to do except talk to my friend about it, because you always make me feel better. And I have to do something to backwash this filter, pal, because I'm getting less and less and less effective. And it's costing me more and more and more energy to run slower and slower and slower. And this weight of people, this weight that I feel like if I don't just keep producing this stuff, then everything's just going to come apart. I know that this was the burden that my father's generation carried. That that my dad's generation was, your job is to provide for your family. That's what men do. And that means you go to work. And if there's a lot of stress at work, well, then have a scotch or two or three or five. But whatever you have to do to keep doing what you're doing, whatever you have to do to keep the bacon coming home and to live up to your obligations to your family and your responsibilities that you have to your employees and all the rest of it, then that's what you have to do. And if it kills you, then that's an honorable way to go. But you don't get to just throw down you don't just say, I don't feel like doing it. You gotta just keep going. And I don't know how. I'm not even saying I want to get out of that. I'm just saying I don't know what to do to unhear the kind of things that I heard and to unsee how deep this poison is being injected into everything. I don't know how to I don't know how to I don't know how to backwash the filter. I don't know how to refresh myself. I don't know how to take a vacation from it. I don't know how to restore. I just am at that point, like I said, where I feel like, okay, this is it. This is what you do. You just keep going until you drop. And I'm okay with that, but I feel like there's more that I can be doing and should be doing and I'm not doing.
If I want to say first, I want to apologize for interjecting Jonah in there where I didn't finish listening to what you were saying.
No, it's okay. I was asking you.
Yeah,
I was asking you who it was.
Yeah, and I didn't finish listen to all the components you were putting in there, and I think that was very distracting, for me to interject that. So my apologies. But I wanted to talk about. You talk about, a lot of what a lot of us are feeling. And I like that meme, man. That meme is, it goes something to the effect of, as conservatives, we're not out there trying to convert people per se. We're basically saying what we're saying to let other people know that they're not alone. And I think that's a big part of it is that we do need to kind of pull together and let people know what's going on with this. I mean, it's frustrating. If I can give an example of frustration, using myself, when people were talking about the quarantine and how COVID is and how people are being made to disappear and all that sort of stuff. And I say, man, I've been quarantined for over 7 years. I was one of the early targets. This stuff started hitting me back in 2011, as early as that. And then
we were at it.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
And it really rammed home. At 2016, it just went full on and I became a ghost. It's like, I know what it's like to be kept away from what it is that you're trying to do while people are, upset because they're being made to stay home and all that sort of stuff. It's like, welcome to the club. I know exactly what that's like. And it's frustrating because you're just trying to tell people. It's like, man, I've been trying to warn people about this for a long time. And it's like they're not listening. It's one of those things where they don't care about it until it starts happening to them. And I can relate. I know exactly how that is. The thing is, you mentioned, we get the victory, but we may not, be alive to see it. Well, that's the beauty of the Lord. And I want to say this really quick. In that time of exile, so to speak, where I've been gone. At the same time, Bill, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've gotten to know.
No, me neither. I'm so glad you said that. I am so glad you said that because it's not like this work is agony. It's not like I hate every second of it. It's not that at all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. Mm. It's important. I know it's important.
Yeah, I wouldn't. And the reason is Bill, I've gotten to know the Lord in ways that I never. Like I said, I've spent my time where I was an agnostic and borderline atheist. Long story short, I got to cracking open the Bible for one reason or another, and I started reading, and I was like, man, this stuff is blowing my mind. I never thought these kind of mental gymnastics would ever be in there. And so to put this stuff together and to find out that's what the Lord expects us to do when it breaks down the word, he's telling you to calculate. You're supposed to add up who I am. And everything, all the formula renders a certain product, and it's like, it always points to him. So I found those things out, and it's I needed it. It's like, Zoe, would you really have paid attention if I was just go ahead and let you do what it was that you're doing? Go ahead and let you be the internet sensation that you were and all that sort of stuff. Would you have really taken the time to know me? And sure, you would have gained the whole world and lost your soul. I don't want to lose my soul. As you said, Bill, I wonder if we'll be alive to see it. Well, here's the thing. In God, yes. In God, everybody's going to see it. Doesn't matter if you've been dead for thousands of years. Everybody's going to see it. Every knee will bow. Every tongue will confess, even if they don't like it. Right? That's how it's going to be. It's like, look, well, what kind of God? I mean, this is the guy I'm talking about. This is the guy who motivates me. This is the guy who motivates me. It's like, because when you think about it, well, if that means that even people who don't believe are going to bow. No. Even people who don't believe are going to bow. Even people who don't believe are going to confess. Well, what kind of God will make? Doesn't that violate their free will? No, because that's probably, but for these people, that's the only way to get to show the proof. And even with the proof, and that's what we're frustrated by, Bill. People see the proof, but they still don't want to believe it. And God's like, hey, you have witnesses. Even though you don't believe, I, God, the one that you say who is not, have made you bow with the power of God, with the power of who I am, and have made you confess with the power. I didn't want to do that, but that's the proof that you need. That's the proof that the person standing next to you need. In order to make this ruling work, I have to provide the empirical evidence that I, as God, have made you kneel and have confessed with your mouth. Even if you're biting a hole through your lip and drawing blood to not say it, you're going to say it. And everybody's going to be a witness to it. Oh, by the way, you're alive again. That's more proof for you. But even then, people are going to be like, yeah, I don't want to believe it. I want my own truth. Right? That's painful, man. You look at that and you're like, what is wrong with you? And it's frustrating. Yeah. It's frustrating. It's like, dude, how do you look at the truth like this and say no? Man will do it. Men have done it. The angels did it. Right? Why? Because we want our own truth, and our own truth sucks. We try to look at what's happening to the world in pursuit of our own truth. All it does is cause chaos. There's only one real truth. And that's the thing where it's like, I need it that time. It's like, Lord, if you had to strip this away from me, fine. Now I can see it. Now I can renew my faith every day. We talk about being restored. That's what the Lord says, man. You got to renew your faith every day. Rest in me. Be restored. You face another day of this crap, this prison planet. Yeah, you're going to need help getting through it. This is a battlefield. Right? And you're going to have to traverse this terrain. And it's going to suck. There's going to be casualties. There's going to be some heartache. There's going to be some losses, all that sort of stuff. This is war, right? And this is told to us from the beginning. This is a war of cosmic proportions. And maybe the thing is because the war is so big, people can't see the scale of it, and they can't relate it to a war. I assure you, yes, it is.
I remember I ran into you at an event. It's right around 2016, somewhere in that neighborhood. Ran into you at an event. I hadn't seen you for a while because we'd both been away from PJTV by that point. And I remember, this just needs to be said, I remember at our former employer, they told you that there was something that you couldn't talk about, and you basically told them to go pound sand. And I respected you so much for that. Especially since we're fighting against this, and have been for 10, 15 years now, against this wall of censorship. Somebody said, no, you're not talking about that. You said, well, then I'm not doing it. And I really, really admired that. I had a similar situation with them too, where they told me I had to apologize for something I didn't do. I didn't say I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to apologize for something that no one could possibly have taken seriously. I'm not going to do it. But anyway, at this event I saw you at, and I said, hey, so how are you, man? I haven't seen you in a long time. What are you doing now that you're not doing the videos? And you said, oh, I'm doing the videos all the time. Really? He said, yep, you're the 15th person in the last day or two, or at this event, who's asked me where I've been. I've been doing the same thing I've always been doing. It's just that I've been completely shut off. And I remember thinking, that is the most certain way to destroy a person's soul, is to not actually stop them, but to make them feel like that voice has just been shut off. It's much worse than them actually censoring you. If YouTube and all these other people were actually blocking me, that'd be a lot less damaging than watching the views just continue to go down. Watching this perception of influence just decline over time, because then you don't even have the crutch, right? of, oh, well, no one's seeing me because I'm censored. No, it's like they just keep turning us down, turning us down, turning us down, turning us down. It's speaking about us now. And it's designed to make you feel exactly how you feel, which is, okay, well, I guess my time is done. I guess my best work is behind me. I guess I used to have some influence. I don't anymore. Not being asked to be on any of these shows. People who were friends of mine were asked to, no, you're just being kind of left behind. And so here we are. And what's going to happen is the one thing that has to happen. You had your moments. I'm having one of mine now. We go behind that rock and we have our quiet little breakdown, and our hands are shaking and we can't control it, and we don't want other people to see it, but that's our job. And then the next thing is, tomorrow we're going to be here doing it again. And that's the thing that matters, right? What the reason Tom Hanks's character in that movie was so noble and so admirable, and the reason you felt his loss so strongly, was not because he went behind a rock and broke down and cried. It's because he went behind a rock and broke down and cried, then he straightened himself up and got himself together, and then went back out there and fought the Germans some more. And that's what we'll both be doing, you and me. But if we're not willing to talk about the toll, then the toll will take its toll. And the one thing I've gotten out of this from you, because I get so much out of these talks from you, is that it's not, and this is something my friend who ended up being killed by this 10 years ago in February, since Andrew Breitbart died. Breitbart thought that if he didn't save the country, then it was his fault. And I feel that very strongly. Very, very strongly. But what I've gotten from you is, it's not my job to convert people. It's God's job. It's beyond my power. My job is just to be the messenger as best as I can, and to be the voice, and then that's all I can do. And that's all I'm expected to do. And feeling that responsibility come off your shoulders helps an awful, awful lot. That it's not up to me or you or Andrew or anybody else to save this country or to convert people or change their minds. It's beyond our power. Our job is just to keep getting the message out there. And that's all we're expected to do. And so let's just keep doing that.
There it is, man. I hope that folks listening to it, who struggle with this, I hope they come to the same conclusion, just like you did. Our job is that's our job. Just promote the truth. The salvation, the salvation is already there. It's just a point of letting people know that it's here.
And just keep going back and doing it until you can't do it anymore.
That's right.
So that's what we do. That'll do it for this cheerful edition of the Virtue Signal, which will be leading off on Disney Plus for kids in the morning. There'll be animated versions of Zoe and I talking about all this, and we'll have big eyes, and everything will seem much cooler. Like I said, I don't enjoy doing this kind of thing, but from my experience, especially with the Stratosphere Lounge, I find that this is probably the most valuable thing we could do, is to let people know, that what you're feeling, and especially what you're feeling you don't want to show anybody else, is pretty common, and that the fight isn't about not getting wounded, and the fight isn't about not taking the hits. The fight's about taking the hits and getting wounded, then getting up again and going out and doing it some more. So that's what we'll be doing here. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com, those few people who have stepped up and decided to pay money to keep these messages coming. We are both of us so grateful that you give us a chance to do this thing that we're called to do, and that we would simply go insane if we weren't able to do. And that's just keep fighting this fight and speaking the truth as best as we know how. And neither Zoe or I would be able to do that if it hadn't been for the members at BillWhittle.com, and specifically the people who joined almost exactly a year ago. We're recording this on November 5th, which was 1 year ago, was the morning where we woke up and realized, oh, really? Funny? Donald Trump was leading by big margins in those 5 states when we went to bed. It's been quite a year. For Alfonso, Rachel, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Virtue Signal.